Hello and welcome to the very first episode of the Book of Kels podcast. I have been thinking about making this podcast for such a lengthy period of time, like literally so long, and the day has finally come. I booked into the podcast studio here. I said, let me commit to this and see how it goes, because I have been wanting to start this podcast for so long and I've been thinking about it too much. And when it comes to anything, you just need to commit. You just need to get outside your comfort zone and just do it and see how it goes. So that's what we are doing today. So today's episode is going to be a little bit about me. It's going to be about who I am, what I do, so that you can get to know me and what I do, living my life. But before we get into that, at the start of each episode, I want to give you either a journal prompt or a question that really gets you thinking thoughts. So today's question is, what would your younger self think of you now? So really think about that for a second. What would your younger self think of you now? Think back to 16-year-old you, who they admired, what traits they really loved in a person. And if they were looking at who you are now, what would they love about you, or what would they think about you? So to get into the first episode, we are going to talk a little bit about me. Who is KB? So before we do get into it, it was an absolute trek to get here to this podcast studio. Like, I'm sweating. You're lucky. If you're watching on YouTube, it's lucky that you can only see me and not smell me, because I'm absolutely sweating. We ended up in some poor old lady's front garden on our moped. We were going down this dodgy street and we were absolutely racing against time. So it ended up just being chaos. So I'm just trying to calm myself down while I'm talking. So who am I? So my name is Kelsey. I'm Irish, if you couldn't already tell by my accent. I'm currently living in Bali, and that is why I have this beautiful creative space in order to record this podcast and get creative and work on new projects, especially in my coaching business, which is what we'll talk a little bit about later on. But over the past year, I have done a lot of work on growth, a lot of work on myself, and ultimately figuring out who I am. Now, there's a bit of woo-woo around people coming to Bali and finding themselves, but I promise you it's genuine. It really is. The conversations that you have with people in Bali are just next level. There's no superficial conversations. There's no small talk. It's literally who are you as a person? What are your values? I want to get to know you properly. And that is something that really inspired me to start this podcast, because I want so many guests to come on and talk about their experiences, talk about their outlook on life, talk about things like happiness, mindset, health and fitness, looking after yourself, just everything that makes us human. So look forward to some absolutely incredible guests coming on the podcast. So I was just a normal person. I am a normal person. We're all normal, okay? I think my mindset was like any other person in Ireland while I was in school. You know, in Ireland, we're very conditioned to go with the flow. We are, go to school, go to college, get a job, get a mortgage, have kids, get married. It's very structured. But I think sixth year in school, leading right up to the Leaving Cert, is when my mindset really, really changed. And as I said, I was just another normal person. And when you think about, especially anyone in Ireland listening to this, when you think about the year of the Leaving Cert, there's a lot of stress, there's a lot of pressure on you. And I wanted to do something that helped me escape from that pressure. So when you're in school and you're doing exams, a lot of your self-worth is placed on doing really, really well, what results you're getting and how well you're doing. But ultimately, for me, through what I did, it really helped me to realize that ultimately none of those results really, really matter. So coming up to exams, I worked really, really hard. And this wasn't from any perspective of doing well for other people. It was literally to do well for myself. So I worked really, really hard. I would get up in the morning, go to school, 9 to 4, study 4 to 6, go home, eat some food, study again 6 to 8, go to the gym for an hour, come home, run home actually for Love Island from 9 to 10, only to pass out at the end of the day and do it all over again the next day. And I realized that there's like so much more to life than just this, right? So I was working incredibly hard for a really, really good result in my leaving cert, and I needed that outlet. And my outlet was the gym. It was a place where I could go and see it as my own. It was a place where I could go to self-develop and not be just fed information that would probably mean nothing to me after I left school. So I used it as a place of self-development. I used it as a place to disconnect from the stress of studying, from the pressure of doing so well. And when I walked into that gym, it's like all expectation just left. There was no expectation for me to look a certain way for anybody. There was no expectation for me to be, lifting a certain weight, to be comparing myself, or to be any type of way for anybody else other than myself. So that's how I used the gym to disconnect from the expectations that were surrounding me in that year of school. And that's where I fell in love with looking after myself. That's where I fell in love with how the exercise helped me with my mindset, how it helped me to really just take a breather from the stress of everyday life. So I worked my ass off in the last year of school. And that was to do nothing else other than prove to myself that I could work really hard. And when you work really hard for something, you ultimately get rewarded for it. I really, really do believe that hard work gets rewarded. So I worked my ass off. As I said, I spat my routine at you. Sometimes I'd go to the gym in the morning just so I would have more time in the evening to study. And after working so hard for that year, I did really well. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not gloating and I'm not flexing here, but I did really well to ultimately get handed a piece of paper with some grades on it and some so-called points that would dictate whether I could be successful or whether I could go into a course that was related to the career path I wanted to go down. But if anyone wants that piece of paper, it's actually sitting at home. It's an irrelevant piece of paper sitting in the press at home in my mom's house. So if you want it, you can go get my points. You can have them. I didn't use them in the end because I knew that there was more to life than just following the system, following the herd, going into college, getting that degree, then, getting loans, getting mortgages, all of this stuff. I was like, there is more to see, there's more to life than just following the herd. So I was adamant in sixth year that I was going to take a year out. And when I got my results, I missed out on my top course on my CAO. So my top course at the top of that list, I missed out by 1 point. 1 point. And I think that 1 point changed the trajectory of my entire life. I would not be here today if I got that 1 point, I would not be in Bali today. I fully believe it because I probably would have accepted my top course. I probably would have gone to college for 4 years, got that degree and ended up being a PE and biology teacher in a school in Ireland. And I love educating people, don't get me wrong. And I probably would have loved being a teacher. But I honestly wake up some days and I'm like, how is this my life? And I have to take a step back and be like, it's because I created it. It's because I was willing to step outside my comfort zone and literally just try and do things on my own with barely any knowledge. I didn't wait until I knew everything to go my own way and do things the way I wanted to. I literally just dived in and took a year out, got my personal training certification, became a coach. And if there's anything that the Leaving Cert taught me, it's work hard, be disciplined, and you'll get rewarded. So when I was doing my PT course, I worked really, really hard. And thankfully that was recognised by my tutor at the time. Shout out to Gary in Unit 3. And he offered me an internship to go and work in his gym. And I'm absolutely so grateful that he did because I was able to develop in so many ways as a coach. I was able to learn about people. I was able to be immersed in an environment where people were going to exercise because they enjoy it. And that is where the foundation of my coaching business was created. So, come a few years of working in that gym, I was supported by the best people there. They're absolutely incredible. My mentors, my bosses at the time, and the people that came into that gym who were there to exercise because they feel good, exercise to escape the stress of their day. And if there's one thing I really learned from Unit 3, especially Niall, my boss, he said, give people the best hour of their day. And that's so influential because people will go a whole day with bare minimum interaction these days. Social interaction is very, very minimum. You know, you go to work, you sit at a laptop, you're probably like phone calling people, maybe emailing people, maybe not even speaking to anyone at all. And then maybe you'll drop by Tesco's on the way home and you'll get your dinner and you'll do self-checkout, so you're not speaking to anyone. And then you'll go home and you're probably like thinking about the next day of work and how stressful it's going to be. So you don't interact properly with your family or your friends because you're just like, I'm up to here. When you think of a gym environment, when you think of community, when you think of exercising and all of the positive things that that brings for you, that will definitely be the best hour of your day. When you are working on yourself, when you're working on your health and fitness, when you're looking after yourself and prioritizing self-care, that is where the change really happens in people's lives. So the foundation of Embrace Coaching, which is my coaching business, is based around that. Teaching people how to exercise and look after themselves in order to change their lives and really live their best lives and achieve their goals. So I actually have a tattoo on the back of my arm, which is my logo. So if you're watching on YouTube, you'll be able to see this. If not, go to my Instagram page or go over to YouTube and have a look. But I have a tattoo on the back of my arm. And essentially, it is a picture. Let me get, into my descriptive skills here. It's a drawing of a girl and she's hugging herself. And that is to symbolize self-love, self-acceptance. She also has a flower coming out of her hair, which is to symbolize growth, because I feel like that is one of the most important aspects of life, is stepping outside your comfort zone and growing from experience and learning. And she also has a small heart on her arm. And what this heart symbolizes is kindness. Because when someone wears their heart on their sleeve, they, are so giving to others. And I think that's so important, especially from like a humanity and social perspective. If someone's really kind to you, you will never forget how they made you feel. And that's just so, so important to me. So I built Embrace on the foundation of those three values and the idea of what I learned from working with the people that I did. So you have self-love, self-acceptance, you have growth, and you have kindness. And they are the foundational bricks of Embrace. And from there, I just built and built and built. When I qualified as a personal trainer, I thought that there was a set way to do the things. I thought there was a set way to coach people when there's not. You have to be a different coach for every single person. Every single person requires you to be human for them. And some people thrive off of one thing, some people thrive off another. Some person's goals will differ to another person's goals. I've met people who want to improve their fitness just so that they can keep up with their kids as they grow older. I've met people who want to simply just change a little bit about themselves, whether that be confidence levels, whether that be how strong they are, in order to just live their best life and feel confident and feel like they can go out into the world and just be themselves. So Embrace is based on all of those things that I've just mentioned. And when we look at the fitness industry, it is a very noisy place, a very noisy place. There's a lot of BS out there. This is probably going to be a podcast where I curse anyway, so I'm sorry, mom and dad. But there is a lot of bullshit out there. There's a lot of bullshit in the fitness industry, and I'm here to filter through that because I'm educating myself. I continue to educate myself on what actually works, looking at the research, looking at behavior change, looking at how health and fitness can impact both your physical and mental health. So when I coach people, it's from a holistic perspective because there are the things that directly impact your health and fitness, and then there's the things that indirectly impact your health and fitness. And health can be so many things. Health can be your mental health. Health can be your physical health. We all talk about, healthy relationships. We all talk about, healthy attitude. We talk about healthy bodies, healthy minds. And this all ties into how I coach people. looking at it from a holistic point of view and also looking at it from a compassionate point of view, because life is hard. Life is difficult. And when people have goals, especially in the fitness industry, they're almost told to like, okay, your life needs to go on hold so that you can achieve this goal, and then you can go back to your life once you've achieved it. But that's unrealistic, because if you wanted to make long-term change, you need to maintain those long-term changes that you're implementing. Long-term results come from long-term change. And that's as simple as it is. You can't expect to have a goal, go into like die-hard mode for 6 to 12 weeks, and then go back to the way you were living before you did that, because you're a product of what you were doing. Going back to the life that you had before you entered this phase of whatever it is, fat loss, fitness, you will end up in the exact same position again. You have to implement habits, changes, and make compromises, but never sacrifices. Because when you sacrifice something, all of a sudden it becomes that little bit more appealing to you, and you just want it that little bit more. We always want what we can't have. So the way I coach people is to educate them, to support them, and to empower them so that they can ultimately one day turn around to me and say, Kelsey, I've learned so much from coaching with you that I am ready to leave. There's a lot of coaches out there that'd be like, no, keep your clients. But I want everybody to be educated enough, to be self-sufficient enough to go and live their best life. And I will always be there for accountability. Half the time, that's why people employ a coach. But I think that it's more rewarding for me as a person, especially because I wanted to be a teacher, I wanted to be an educator, for me to bring that to my coaching, to teach people the why behind why I'm telling them to do this every day, why I'm telling them to wake up at their first alarm. I'm laughing because I did not wake up at my first alarm this morning, but that's just life. That's what happens sometimes. You get tired and, you have days where, things aren't perfect, but as long as you are willing to wake up the next day and be 1% better than yesterday. So tomorrow, my goal doesn't have to be, okay, tomorrow has to be perfect. It's just looking back at today and saying, all right, I didn't get up at my first alarm this morning, but that's definitely what I'm going to do tomorrow. And that's the first win of the day. Getting up at that first alarm, tackling the day, and realizing that if you can win that first battle of the morning, you can do anything that day. And life will throw things at you. Inevitably, it's life. But it's about realizing that nothing's perfect. Especially when clients come to me and they ask me about coaching, they inquire, and then they're saying, okay, I'm going to join when, things align. I'm going to join when I have nothing on, I've no holidays coming up, I've no events, I've no weddings, I've no nights out with friends. When in reality, coaching is about you living your best life and being able to achieve your goals in conjunction with that. I want you to go out, I want you to go on holidays. I want you to go out with your friends. I want you to go to weddings. I want you to have fun. I want you to make memories. There's so much more to life than just counting calories. Right? We count memories. Imagine getting to your deathbed and just saying, okay, I achieved my goals, but, that was at the expense of my mental health. It was at the expense of making memories with the most amazing people in my life. As a coach, I want you to be able to say, I'm moving towards the version of myself that I want to be, and I'm also living my life to the fullest while I'm doing it. And as I said before, putting a time restriction on your goals is so unrealistic, because once again, if you put a time limit on it and then you go back to your old habits, you go back to your old ways, you go back to your old life, you're going to end up in a vicious cycle of wanting something, getting it, and then going back and wanting it again. But I'm here to help you to live your best life and achieve your goals. Because in life, that's what it's about, right? It's about working towards something, whether it's career, relationship, personal development. As long as you are working towards something, you are living your life. And For me, it's about educating you about how to look after your body, how to exercise safely, how to exercise properly, and how to really look after your mental health on the way, so that everything that happens from the neck down is dictated by the neck up. And that's something I learned from a very good mentor of mine. And I have him to thank for that, because it made me realize how everything is connected. You cannot make physical change unless your brain tells your body to get up and do the things necessary every day in order to make that change. And that's just so important to realize, because you won't move your arm unless your brain tells it to, right? But then there's days where we're demotivated. There's days where things get thrown at us in life, and there's days where things will come up, obstacles will get in our way, and the last thing we want to do is get up and go for a walk, or the last thing we want to do is, go to the gym and get a session in, or, things that we might have done before is, okay, I'm just going to, get a takeaway because I'm not arsed making myself something that'll make me feel good, So my coaching approach is to take all of those things into consideration and piece them together so that ultimately you can take the pressure off yourself to have something in 6 to 12 weeks. You can take the pressure off yourself and commit to this long term and achieve something much more incredible and maintainable over the period of the rest of your life, rather than just 12 weeks where you can say, okay, I did this, but now I'm back where I was, so what was the point? It's about looking back at your life and being like, in a year, 2 years' time, seeing yourself in a totally different, improved position and saying, geez, I don't know why I would have ever restricted the time on this, because the journey was so much fun. The journey was a challenge, yes, but I ultimately had fun along the way, and now I know that I can fit this into my life. I don't have to make my life fit this goal. I can fit this goal into my life, and I don't have to achieve it in such a short period of time. So today, everything is instant. We have barely any patience anymore. I literally have patience tattooed on my forearm right here. You can see it if you're on YouTube. But the reason why I got that is because we don't have a lot of it these days. Everything is instant. Like, if I told you now, oh, go buy this pair of shoes. You go onto your phone, you tap into Google, you type in those pair of shoes, and you can probably find about 50 different shops where you can get them. And you'll compare the prices and it'll be right there. You want to see someone's profile on Instagram, you click into the app, you click into the search bar, you search their name, you click on their profile, it's there. It's instant. It's like in seconds. And I think that's where the lack of patience comes from, especially from a health and fitness journey, because a health and fitness journey is not linear. If I gave you a really old phone right now and I said, okay, go in there and Google, your favorite pair of shoes. If that search took more than 10 seconds to load up a page, I bet you anything, you'd be like, oh my God, your phone is so slow. Oh my God, the Wi-Fi is so shit. Oh my God, why is this so slow? You would be so frustrated because everything is instant. And it's like when people get stuck in traffic. I love getting stuck in traffic, low key, because it's a time to just say you're stuck in traffic. You don't have any other responsibility, really, unless you're heading somewhere and you're late, like I was today, and I ended up in some lady's front garden. But just sit in traffic and just look around, just take in everything and just be patient in that situation. Just sit still and take in your surroundings. And when you apply that to something like a health and fitness journey, it takes so much pressure off you. You need far less patience when you're not waiting for something to come. And you don't need to rely on motivation either if you know that where you're moving is in the right direction. if you take action. So motivation is a topic for another podcast, but I just want you to know that my coaching approach is probably a bit different to most of the fitness industry. And that is just because I have realized that there's a lot more to life than just dieting. You weren't put on this planet to diet. You weren't put on this planet to like count calories or do endless gym sessions every single day or cardio every day. You were put on this planet for so much more. Social connection, making memories, being happy, laughing, all of these things are so, so important. And I just think that we have lost that a little bit in ourselves over the years, with things being so accessible to us, being so instant all of the time, where we actually forget to zoom out and take a bird's eye view and say, okay, look at how much more there is to life than just how I look. Just like I said earlier, when I was doing my exams in school, a lot of my self-worth was internalized around how well I was doing in school by the expectations of other people. Oh, Kelsey, do well in your exams, you can do anything. No, work hard and you can do anything. Absolutely anything you set your mind to, you can do, as long as you commit to it and as long as you take the action that you need to. That's how I ended up in Bali. I really put a lot of effort into building something and trying to impact people's lives so that they would tell their friends about it, so that they would, recommend their mom, their sister, their best friend to me, so that I could impact more lives, but ultimately grant myself the opportunity to move across the world and see what the world has on offer that we very rarely get the chance to see. We were in lockdown for 2 years and we only got to see the 4 walls of our house. And now I'm out here meeting some incredible people. That's why I'm so excited for the future episodes, is because I have met so many incredible people out here. And through impacting and changing the lives of people, that means so much to me. And it's also making me extremely grateful for the fact that I can be in Bali and be in such a creative space where I can create things like podcasts in this incredible studio that I'm in and share it with the world. And along the way, share the experiences of other people and the mindsets of the people that are out here. And I'm not just saying that everybody in Bali is like incredible, but they kind of are, because life is so different here. There's something that really stuck with me. So in Bali, there's a volcano called Mount Batur. And in the first few weeks that I was over here, I climbed it. And I was climbing it with a guide, and he was a Balinese man. And, oh, forgive me, but I forget his name. But he was so nice. And I asked him about traveling. I said, would you ever go traveling? Would you ever consider going to Europe? And he said, it's very expensive. The Balinese people don't have a lot here. But he said, it's very expensive. But he also said, we know how beautiful Bali is, so why would we want to leave? And I was like, whoa. Like, if everyone had that perspective about where they live and could constantly see the beauty in where they live and the beauty of the world would be such a happier place. And the reason why that stuck with me so much is because he said, we know we don't have much, but we know how beautiful our home is, so why would we want to leave? And that just blew my mind, because everybody's mindset in Bali is almost just a bird's eye view of life, and it's just seeing it from all angles, seeing it from all aspects, and it's just, the pace of life is so much slower. It's so much more connected, especially to like the environment, to the nature, and the people are just so kind. They literally cannot give you enough, and they don't have much. And that's why it's so important to me to try and give back as much as possible also. And that's just something that stuck with me, because as I said in the beginning, I've worked so hard on self-development. I've worked so hard on connecting with myself, figuring out who I am, figuring out what my key values are and the reason I am here, finding my purpose, finding my passion. It's just been an incredible journey. It's been hard. Don't get me wrong, I'm bringing it back to hard work every single time. Getting to a place where you can truly say that you are happy and you are living a life that you are passionate to wake up in the morning and do your job every single day. It's hard work, and I understand that not everybody will get there, but there are small things that you can do every single day to get closer to that. Whether that's just becoming closer to your true self, or whether it is doing that one thing that you've been so scared to do just in order to move one step into this next venture of yours or this next version of you. There's honestly nothing in this universe stopping you from doing that. Make that one step. And if you are terrified, I was terrified. I was absolutely shitting myself, shitting the bed. Like, I just dove in, started Embrace, and put my everything into it. And then said, you know what, I'm going to go travel, I'm going to go see the world, I'm going to go meet some amazing people. And I dove in, I booked that one-way flight, and here I am. And I'm so grateful that I had the ability to do that, because it has honestly changed my entire mindset. So I think that is a good point to end on. I think that is a great point to wrap up the first podcast. So the next podcast will hopefully have a guest on, and we will have a new question for you. So I'll bring you back to the first question that I asked you, just so that it will stick with you now when it ends. What would your younger self think of you now? What would your younger self think of you now? If your younger self is standing right in front of you right now, what would they admire about you? What would they think of you? I low-key think my younger self would be obsessed with me. Like, my younger self would probably look at me and be like, whoa, this is where we ended up. Like, everything that we are stressed about right now at 16 years old is so irrelevant, because we have honestly just grown heaps since school. We are probably a very different person. We are a very different person. We've grown so much, and I would literally love to just take her by the shoulders and be like, everything you are about to work through is going to be so hard. It's going to test you, and it's going to push you to the edge, but you will get through it. So just think about what your younger self would think of you now if she was standing in front of you. He, she, whoever they are. Think about it. So thank you so much for listening. I actually cannot believe that is recorded. I cannot believe I've just sat in front of a camera with a mic and my laptop and just poured out who I am and what I do and where I came from and where I am. It's just surreal. And that's how my life feels most days of the week, is literally just like, how is this the life I have created for myself? But it is honestly just down to taking those scary steps. It's down to pushing yourself. It's down to be willing to commit to growth and discomfort in order to really just be rewarded for it in so many ways. So if you did like the podcast, please share it. Please tell your friends about it, and let's make this such a safe and amazing place to share everything about health, fitness, mindset, spirituality, and just different people's outlooks on life, and make it a happy place too. Make it full of laughs, make it full of crack, and I will see you on the next episode. So thank you guys so much for listening.